All right, ladies and gentlemen, happy Thursday evening. I know that this is a very late breaking, emergency pod is what a lot of people are calling them. And I also know that this is likely the quietest that you have ever heard me before. But obviously, breaking news that we had to go live with as Christian McCaffrey has been traded away from the Carolina Panthers today. I guess I should say this evening during Thursday Night Football. It was broken by Adam Schefter of ESPN, as well as a handful of other sources, that the Panthers have sent the former Pro Bowl running back out of Charlotte. He will now be a San Francisco 49er. That trade has been finalized and officialized. In return for McCaffrey, the Panthers are going to receive a second, third, and fourth round pick out of the 2023 NFL draft, and they will receive a fifth round pick out of the 2024 NFL draft. San Francisco, of course, was in a spot that they have needed something. San Francisco was expected to be a contender this year for the Super Bowl, but obviously things have not gone well so far this season for the 49ers. The Panthers, on the other hand, obviously this year is effectively a throwaway year, and it is going to be a point in time for Carolina, whether Steve Wilks or anybody else becomes the next head coach. They are going to need a good, solid foundation of players. Now, we've talked about this on the Rob Brown Show many times. The Panthers do have a really good foundation built right now with Brian Burns, with Derek Brown, with Yetur Gross-Matos, with Xavier Woods, with Jeremy Chin, with J.C. Horn on the defensive side of the ball. On the offensive side of the ball, obviously, they have got themselves a handful of young offensive linemen. That offensive line has dramatically improved over the past couple of years. But at the end of the day, and I've said this many times on the Rob Brown Show, which airs from 9 to noon every single weekday, you can listen to it live on thefanupstate.com. I have pointed out repeatedly that the Carolina offensive line is much better. There is the potential for the wide receiver core to ultimately be very, very good if they plug the right guy in at quarterback. But when it came down to it, I've been saying all week, and finally and officially the Panthers have come around and agreed with me on this. When it comes down to it, Christian McCaffrey was more valuable as a set of draft picks than he was as a running back. My man is going to be over 27 years old when next year's team takes to the field for the very first time. I genuinely believe that you were looking at a Panthers team that was going to be rebuilding next year as well. Like I would love to consider this year the rebuilding year. I would like to believe that this year would be the year that the Panthers would take the time to get all the pieces together and then be good next year. But that's not really how the NFL works. You're looking at a likely 2-year rebuilding effort. You're looking at probably 2 years it would take for this team to really pull it all together and get all the pieces in place. And at the end of the day, while McCaffrey has obviously been one of the better running backs in the National Football League consistently since he showed up in the first round back in 2017, at the end of the day, the Panthers see more value in 4 draft picks out of San Francisco than they saw as McCaffrey. Because like I mentioned, I think next year is another rebuilding year for Carolina. I think next year is the year that you gel the foundation. The year after that being 2024, that is likely the year that you can really push this team towards contending in the NFC South. I think next year, the division itself would likely be up for grabs. Obviously, I think at this point, it's not going to be surprising anybody to think that Tom Brady is probably gone at the end of this year. This year has been massively disappointing for the Buccaneers. We just watched the Saints get it handed to them by the Cardinals on Thursday Night Football. That team is bad right now. And while the Falcons have impressed this year behind Marcus Mariota, I don't think anybody expects that the Falcons are going to get it together and suddenly become a big-time playoff team next year. So it basically comes down to, in addition to the first-round pick that the Panthers are going to have on their own next year, which is, as of today, is the number 1 overall pick in next year's National Football League draft. And that is the spot. I see my man Robert popping in here. He says none of those picks will get them a real quarterback in the draft. They need a first round. Otherwise, you get what they got in the draft already, one that can't play in the NFL. And obviously, Matt Corral has been largely untalked about for the most part, right? Like there was a lot of hope that maybe Corral could step in, but you got to keep in mind the guy was a mid-round draft pick, right? Like there was a reason that he was available where the Panthers decided to move up and draft him. So Matt Corral was never going to be the answer, right? Like, I was almost confused as to why Matt Corral was the pick, when and where Matt Corral was the pick. I didn't really understand that pick at the time. Maybe you're thinking 2-3 years, he can kind of become a Tom Brady down the road, a guy that you groom and grow, and he gets a couple of years to learn the National Football League, learn the speed, learn the system, and get it all together, and then take over the reins. But he was never going to be the guy that stepped in the next year or two and then took the Panthers to the next level. I would point out to Robert and everybody else that the Panthers also do have a first-round pick. It would have absolutely been nice to have added another first-round pick. I said on the show all week that I thought the Panthers were going to end up with a first and a second, maybe a first, a third, and a fourth. Instead, they end up with a second, third, and fourth, and a fifth for next year, which is, when you kind of average it all out, it's around the volume of picks, the quality, and the quantity of picks that I projected the Panthers to receive in return for Christian McCaffrey. But at the end of the day, it's like I mentioned, you're talking about a team that is not good this year. Next year is going to be I genuinely think, a lay the foundation year, right? The year after this year is going to be a year where you start finding the right guys, you start putting the right guys in place. And then the year after that, regardless of who the head coach is, I think that's the first year you can really expect the Panthers to be very, very good. But that being said, when it's all said and done, Christian McCaffrey, by the point that the Panthers are expected to be good, would be a 28-year-old running back. 30 is the shelf for running backs, and most of the running backs who were able to make it to 30, those are running backs that are running a more traditional style of football, not the finesse style of football like Christian McCaffrey. You just don't see a bunch of that, right? And so because you don't see a bunch of that, I don't expect McCaffrey, especially a guy who has struggled with injury throughout his career, I don't expect a guy like Christian McCaffrey to be able to make it to 28, 29, 30 and be relied upon as a guy who's going to give you 14, 15, 16, maybe 17 games worth of consistent production year in and year out. What you can do with a second, third, and fourth next year and a fifth in 2024 is, if you play your cards right, you find a playmaker that can come in, that can step in, that can fill that role as kind of the joker back, the guy that can really play anywhere on the field. You find the guy that can play a running back that you can trust and rely on to carry the ball on third and short, but you find the guy that you can split out wide. And when you have your new young quarterback, whether it is CJ Stroud, whether it's Hendon Hooker out of Tennessee, whether it's Bryce Young from Alabama, whoever you end up going with at quarterback at the first overall draft pick next year, which is where I expect the Panthers to make that pick, regardless of which quarterback you ultimately end up drafting in that position, I think by using the second, third, fourth, and additional fifth in 2024 that you get, you can go get a variety of playmakers. You can go get a wide receiver, a running back, a split back. You can go get different position players, and you can plug and rotate them in at different offensive positions in order to try to find the guy who's going to ultimately replace Christian McCaffrey. So, again, breaking news, if you have not heard it yet, Christian McCaffrey is now a San Francisco 49er. The young man has been in Carolina since 2017 when he was drafted in the first round out of Stanford. He has been, without a doubt, the face of the Panthers franchise for that entire duration. And he was the face of the franchise this year, despite the struggles, but that is no more. He is on his way to San Francisco. In return for the Pro Bowl running back, the Carolina Panthers are receiving a second round, a third round, and a fourth round pick in the 2023 NFL draft. And they will also be picking up a fifth round pick in the 2024 NFL draft. So 4 picks over the next 2 years, 3 of them in the early rounds of next year's draft, 1 of them in the later rounds of the draft 2 years from now. And I think that's about exactly where you can expect Christian McCaffrey to be traded, right? Like San Francisco, I mentioned a few teams this week on the team. I thought that Kansas City restructuring some of their contracts, including Travis Kelce's, was very interesting. I thought that might be making a little room for Christian McCaffrey. Now the belief is the Chiefs are targeting Odell Beckham Jr. in order to replace the production that they lost from Tyreek Hill heading to Miami. But the other teams that I mentioned Green Bay, I mentioned San Francisco, I mentioned the Los Angeles Rams, and I mentioned the Buffalo Bills. All four of those teams are contenders. All four of those are teams that we genuinely expected would be a Super Bowl threat this year to end up making a deep run into the playoffs. But all of them have had some struggle. The Rams, they beat the Panthers last Sunday, but that is a Rams team that's at 500. A San Francisco team that, while they did try to make the move to Trey Lance, obviously Lance got injured back in, week 2. They went to Jimmy Garoppolo. Garoppolo, a guy who did not get a lot of preseason time, did not get the full complement of snaps in the preseason. So Jimmy Garoppolo took some time to get his feet under him. The San Francisco 49ers have struggled. The LA Rams without Cam Akers, I thought, was a destination. I thought the Green Bay Packers at 3-3, a surprising 3-3, as Green Bay was expected to be an NFC frontrunner. I thought they were a destination. But San Francisco absolutely was one of the locations that I thought Christian McCaffrey could ultimately end up in. And I think the Panthers got about as much as they could have expected, right? I mean, I've seen a lot of people check in already and say that they thought they were looking for a first-round pick plus some extra picks. I got a text from a buddy of mine right before I went on the live here that said McCaffrey was worth at least the player. But you got to keep in mind, the 49ers are a team that expected to contend this year. The 49ers expected to be a team that they genuinely thought they could take out the LA Rams and win the NFC West. They genuinely thought that they were a Super Bowl threat. If you traded a value player for Christian McCaffrey, you would hurt that, right? Even adding McCaffrey, if you took away another piece, you would just be where you ended up. So the 49ers trading a haul of draft picks, 3, a second, third, and fourth next year, plus the additional 5th in 2024, getting 4 picks for a guy is nothing that you see. It's not something you see very often. The 49ers have effectively created a situation here where they have added to this year. This is the definition of mortgaging the future in order to succeed now. The 49ers believe they can succeed now. They believe that they are a team that is a player or two away from being able to jump over in LA. And let's call it what it is right now, right? The NFC West is not very good at this point. You were talking about a bunch of teams all hovering around 500. How many playoff teams have we seen sneak in as the lowest seeded divisional winner, but catch fire at just the right time and go on a run? The 49ers believe that they're that team. They think that they are the team that was a piece, maybe 2 pieces away from taking that next step, from jumping over the LA Rams, from becoming the NFC West champions, and finding a stride later in the season to really turn that corner and make themselves a Super Bowl favorite. And I think anybody who's watched Christian McCaffrey play at this point realize that if you need one player that can help you turn the corner, if you need one player that you believe can take you to the next level, Christian McCaffrey is absolutely one of the best in the NFL, one of the few in the NFL that you can trust is going to be that guy. Now, we've talked about the injury concerns. Like I've mentioned, gold star to Christian McCaffrey for making it 6 weeks so far this season without getting banged up, without having to miss time. Up until this year, over the past 3 years, McCaffrey's been a guy that you can trust on to play 1 out of every 3 games. 1 out of every 3 games has been the average amount of games that McCaffrey's been able to stay healthy for. The San Francisco 49ers are rolling the dice on this because if something happens to Christian McCaffrey, if McCaffrey does get banged up, if McCaffrey goes down to another knee or ankle or rib or whatever injury, then this is going to be a bad deal for the 49ers, right? I don't know that McCaffrey's going to be a 1-year rental for the 49ers like a lot of people think that he is. There's a lot of folks that think they're bringing him in for 1 year. You're only going to owe him just a touch over $500,000 this year. His salary just skyrockets next year. A lot of folks think that he will be dealt again. So he's playing the back half of this year for one team, and then he'll be shipped off again. I don't necessarily know that that's the case. I think the 49ers have a really good opportunity to keep McCaffrey throughout the length of the contract extension that the Panthers gave him. But like I mentioned, they're rolling the dice. They're rolling the dice that Christian McCaffrey is going to be able to stay healthy. They're rolling the dice that McCaffrey is going to be able to stay healthy enough to help them be a contender to win the NFC West and to skyrocket into the playoffs. Will that be the case? No idea. I don't think anybody can tell, and that's why this draft move for the Panthers is a really solid one. And it's why it's such a question for the 49ers, because they are rolling the dice that McCaffrey stays healthy. But if Christian McCaffrey does stay healthy, the San Francisco 49ers Vegas odds to be the NFC West champions have just gone exponentially up. And the LA Rams have now got to be looking over their shoulder, recognizing that the 49ers just got much better on the offensive side of the football with the addition of number 22. It changes the dynamic of that division. But it also changes the dynamic for the Carolina Panthers. And like I mentioned, the Panthers now add a second, third, and fourth next year, a fifth in 2024. That gives them 4 cracks at finding a playmaker. Keep in mind, that also includes the first overall draft pick. As of right now, maybe this changes, right? Like maybe things go right for Steve Wilks. Maybe after the trade of Robbie Anderson, which you got to add those picks in there, the trade of CMC, maybe the Panthers kind of luck their way, backdoor their way into a win or two over the rest of the NFL season. But I doubt it, right? Like there's not much in me right now that has a lot of faith that the Panthers are going to be able to change gears and grab a couple of wins. So my bet is the Panthers are going to have their first overall draft pick next year. They're going to have their second round pick. They're going to have all the picks they just picked up from San Francisco. You just need to hit on a playmaker, right? Whoever your first round pick is next year, whether it is Stroud, whether it's Hooker, whether it is Young, right? But whether it's Lewis out of, I'm doing this. It's late at night. I'm not going late this night. Levis out of Kentucky, whoever the first round pick is for the Cats next year. Now you got to use the rest of those picks from San Francisco, and you got to go find playmakers. S, plural, multiple. You got to go find multiple playmakers that you can plug on that side of the football that can kind of pick up some of that slack. I know for Panthers fans, it's going to sting a little bit because, as we mentioned, Christian McCaffrey has been the face of your franchise. He's been the guy. He has been the guy that's plastered on banners and posters around Bank of America. He is the guy that sold the most jerseys. He's the guy whose face is on the majority of T-shirts that you see when you walk around Charlotte. I know it stings, but you have to understand that you are at this point building for the future of this franchise. You are building for the next generation of Carolina Panther football. You are building for the post Matt Rule era of football. And while we are in that era now, this year is for rebuilding. I'm going to bet that next year is for rebuilding. It is 2024 that this team is going to be set up to win. And these draft picks in 2024, they are going to have a year of experience under their belt. They are going to have a year of getting to know whoever the next head coach is, be it Steve Wilks or somebody else. This is a really good opportunity for this Panthers team to go find some playmakers, to give them a year in 2023 to learn the speed of the NFL, to learn the offensive system of whoever the next head coach and offensive coordinator are, to put the whole puzzle together. And then in 2024, really build yourself a very good team. And I think these draft picks go a very long way in that direction. All right, if you got any thoughts, please leave them in the chat, whether you're watching on Facebook, whether you're watching on Twitter, whether you're wherever you're watching right now. If you are watching right now, do us a favor, drop us a comment in the chat, and we'll talk about it. My man Brian checks in. He says, all I know is pain. Like I said, I know this one stinks. I know this one, if you are a Carolina Panther fan, it's got to sting. Because, again, since 2017, Christian McCaffrey's been the face of this franchise. When everything else has been going poorly for the Panthers, McCaffrey has been there for you. But I want you to go back to last year. I want you to go back to midseason last year. When McCaffrey started the year injured, he came back. He immediately got re-injured. He went away again. I understand that it feels like this guy has been the only positive factor of your team right now. But what this team is building on right now, Brian, is the defensive side of the football, right? Like, that's where your playmakers are. That's where your studs are. And the draft picks that you get back from McCaffrey are going to help you go in the direction of finding that next guy. That's the direction that you want to go in. So, I know that this one stings. I know that this one hurts. I know there's going to be a lot of folks who are going to be taking those 22 jerseys out of their closet tomorrow and putting them away in boxes and putting them away and getting them ready to try to track him down for an autograph one day because they're not going to wear him again. But the stars on this team are on the defensive side of the ball for now. DJ Moore might be a star. We'll find out. Chuba Hubbard's about to get his number called a lot more than he has in the past. But the stars for this team are on the defensive side of the ball, and those guys are going to be called into question moving forward. That's where this team is going to be able to make his money. That's where this team is going to be able to find its stride. Utilize the draft picks you just got for Christian McCaffrey, push in that direction, and try to get better on that side of the football. All right, ladies and gentlemen, if you are just checking in, breaking news reported by Adam Schefter of ESPN, as well as a handful of other sources earlier this evening during Thursday Night Football. Star running back for the Carolina Panthers, Christian McCaffrey, traded to the San Francisco 49ers. In return for McCaffrey, the Panthers have received a second, a third, and a fourth round pick in 2024. They have also picked up a 2023, a 2024 fifth round pick to go along with that as well. So that's where we stand right now. We're going to keep an eye on this story as it continues to break right now. I am one more time checking through Adam Schefter's reporting that would help the 49ers pull off the trade. In fact, I'll tell you what, while I'm looking at this, I'll go ahead and share the screen with you guys so we can see exactly what Shefty is reporting right now. He says right in the tweet in the middle, would help the 49ers pull off the trade for McCaffrey was that they had 6 extra third-round compensatory draft picks granted to them for losing Robert Saleh to the Jets, Mike McDaniel to the Dolphins, and Martin Mayhew to the Commanders in recent off seasons. And so it comes full circle. Former NFL wide receiver Ed McCaffrey played, and former 49ers OC Mike Shanahan in San Francisco. And now McCaffrey's son Christian will play for Shanahan's son Kyle in San Francisco. Schefter went on to say that McCaffrey is scheduled to fly into San Francisco on Friday when he will meet his new teammates and begin to learn the new playbook. It will be challenging to have him in uniform Sunday versus the Chiefs, but McCaffrey did go to Stanford, and anything is possible. He went on to say that McCaffrey's last game with the Panthers came against the Rams, and his first game for the 49ers could well come against the Rams as well. And he has, if you are interested, posted another article very recently. More on the 49ers sending second, third, and fourth round picks in 2023 and a fifth round in 2024 to the Panthers 4-star running back Christian McCaffrey. So that's where we stand right now. That news breaking earlier today, and we are going to keep an eye on this as we move forward. I know that for Panthers fans, this one stings, that McCaffrey has kind of been the face of your franchise, the face of your program, and really it feels like, with a bunch of losses piling up, the only bright spot on the Carolina offense. And you're not wrong for feeling that way. He really has been. But you have to keep in mind, this team was not going to be good this year. This team was going to be struggling to be good next year. What you've given yourself the opportunity to do is end up with a horde of players next year that can step in and contribute the year after that. The year that I think the Cats will actually be good after this. So I know it feels like there's a fire sale. I know that you are getting, it feels, in fact, my man Joel just stepped in here a second ago. He said, been a fan my whole life. All they do is sell, sell, sell. I know it feels that way right now. But as somebody who is following this team very closely, as somebody who has a rooting interest and a financial interest for this team to be good moving forward, I know it feels like all they do is sell, sell, sell right now. And right now they are selling. But they are taking the Belichickian method, right? Stockpile draft picks, and then at some point, and that'll be next year, you're going to go on a run of grabbing guys in the draft and of trying to build a young foundation team. You've got all of the foundation pieces on defense right now. You've got Chin, you've got Woods, you've got Horn, you've got Burns, you've got Brown, you've got Gross Matos. Like, you've got a foundation for a very good defense right now for the Carolina Panthers. Now you need to build an offense that matches that. And while losing McCaffrey feels like that's the case, you weren't going to be good this year. It was going to be a struggle to be relevant next year, right? That's just the fact. And with that struggle, Christian McCaffrey, who would have been 28 years old when the 2024 season kicks off, which I think is the first year the Panthers could genuinely be a threat, McCaffrey would have been 28. The shelf life for a running back is 30 or younger. You would have been pushing that fresh date. You'd have been pushing that age where McCaffrey would have hit the shelf by the time the Panthers are ready to take the next step. So you send him to San Francisco, a team that's ready to turn the corner, a team that's ready to be very good right now. And you picked up a handful of their draft picks to help you be good in a season and a half from now, which is, I think, about as much as you could hope for, about as much as you could expect. Robert pops in. He says, hey, tank for a quarterback. I will tell you right now, at this point, dude, you're in a tank, right? The Panthers are in a tank right now. You're going to end this year with a first overall draft pick. Now, we're going to be having the debate a lot between now and the beginning of next year as to who that quarterback is going to be, right? Is it going to be the Heisman winner from last year, Bryce Young? Hendon Hooker is having a hell of a year at Tennessee right now. C.J. Stroud at Oklahoma State. But there's a lot of people who are very, very scared of that Ohio State quarterback curse, if you want to call it that, into the National Football League, right? Not a lot of Ohio State quarterbacks have showed up in the NFL and been that good. And there's a theory behind that, right? And we'll get into this on the show tomorrow. But the theory behind that is that Ohio State has really been wide receiver U for a number of years. And so you go to Ohio State, you get a lot of great wide receivers coming out of that school, and quarterbacks don't have to be as good as they would have to be at Bama or Georgia or or Clemson or some of the other schools to elevate their game to a national championship level. We'll talk about C.J. Stroud, see if he's the guy. Will Levis out of Kentucky, is he the guy? We'll have plenty of time to debate between now and next year's draft as to who the Panthers will pick overall with the number one pick first, but they will be picking somebody number one overall first in next year's draft, and it will be a quarterback. So we will find out. Brian said, other than quarterback, what position do you think they need to address? It's hard to imagine the only issue was just the quarterback position. I'll start with running back, right? Like, I know you're sitting here, and that's probably going to frustrate a lot of people. But here's the thing. It's much easier to find a running back than it is to find a star quarterback, right? We know it's a quarterback-driven league. We know that you have to have a great quarterback to be successful at the National Football League, or you have to have a fundamentally great team built around the quarterback at every single position if you want to get there, right? You can win a Super Bowl with a Brad Johnson. It can be done, but you got to have a great team built around them. The Panthers right now are not a great team. I would say that wide receiver is going to have to be addressed. Now, I am not saying, Brian, that the Panthers don't already have that guy on the roster, right? I have high expectations for Shi Smith out of South Carolina. I think Shi Smith could absolutely be a big-time contributing member of this offense, but I think he's got a little bit of that wide-eyed rookie feel to him, right? Like he needs a year to really figure it out and settle down, and how much better he's going to be when you have a real quarterback under center. I love Baker. I was super high, super optimistic on Baker Mayfield, but the guy just hasn't been the dude. And, I've seen a lot of Panthers fans who are like really hyped. The Panthers yesterday opened up Sam Darnold's return from IR window. So he's got 21 days from Thursday to get back onto the active list. And there's a lot of Panthers fans that are like, holla, Sam's coming. We've seen Sam Darnold, right? Sam can't do it. We know that. Is he better than Baker? I don't know. We're going to find out. I don't think that he is. I think there's a lot of the struggles of Baker Mayfield that I can lay on the feet of Ben McAdoo, but that's one guy's opinion, right? We're going to find out. But I think wide receiver is absolutely going to have to be addressed, no doubt about it. Is there a big-time playmaker that's going to be available at wide receiver when the Panthers have 2 second-round picks next year, right? You've got yours and you've got San Francisco's. Who is going to be there? Who might the Panthers be able to pick up to play that spot? Will there be a great wide receiver available in the second round that the Panthers can snag? That would be a nice pickup. Offensive line's been much better, right? You got Icky in the first round last year. There was a lot of questions about whether Ike Ekwonu was going to be the guy. The dude has been the second. This is a Pro Football Focus stat so far. According to PFF's so far, Ike Ekwonu has been the second best graded pass blocking offensive tackle in the National Football League. Icky's good, right? So do you pair him with a tackle on the other side? Do you move Moton? Maybe pick up some more picks, draft yourself a right tackle, have a young core on both the edges? Do you go guard? Do you pick up somebody to play the right guard? Maybe a center. I could see them making a move for the center as well, right? Like Eflin's been good. Bradley Bozeman was expected to start. Eflin took his spot, has held on to it all year, but he's been okay. We've seen a lot of bad snaps out of Pat Elflein this year. Could you see a move to try to go find a center in the draft? And on top of all of that, is that really the right way to go, right? Like if you're trying to build an offense that matches the talent player by player that you have on the defensive side of the football, is adding an offensive lineman going to excite the fan base? Is it going to get you guys to get back out there and start buying tickets? I don't know, man. Like it doesn't feel that way for me. All right. There you go. Breaking news. Christian McCaffrey traded away from the Carolina Panthers. He is now a San Francisco 49er. The Panthers, in return for McCaffrey, pick up a second, third, and fourth round pick in the 2023 NFL draft. They also add a fifth round pick in the 2024 NFL draft. If you have been sticking around for the past half hour, I very much appreciate it. Great to have you guys along on a very late Thursday. I was going to say Thursday night. It is now Friday morning, ladies and gentlemen. So in about 8 hours and 20 minutes, the Rob Brown Show will go live on the Fan Upstate 97.7 FM Greenville, 97.1 FM in Spartanburg, and make sure you listen around the world. Either going to thefanupstate.com and listening live at thefanupstate.com or picking up the Odyssey app, AUDACY. Download the Odyssey app free on your digital devices. Search and select the Fan Upstate. And from 9 to noon Eastern Standard Time, you can listen for free to the live stream of the Rob Brown Show. Obviously, we will have further breakdowns of this news coming up tomorrow morning on the Rob Brown Show. I appreciate all of you guys hanging with me tonight. We will see you tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. My name is Rob Brown. You can follow me on Twitter at The Rob Brown Show, on Facebook at The Rob Brown Show, and make sure you follow my YouTube channel at The Rob Brown Show on YouTube. Same on Twitch as well, as we go live with our video stream there every morning as well. We go live on the video from 9 to noon, as well as the audio stream at thefanupstate.com on Twitch and YouTube. You can find me at The Rob Brown Show. Have a great rest of your Thursday night, everybody. I will see you bright and early tomorrow morning when we break down this news. Christian McCaffrey traded away from the Carolina Panthers to the San Francisco 49ers. The Panthers receive a second, third, and fourth round pick in this year's upcoming draft and a fifth round pick in the 2024 draft. I will see you guys tomorrow morning, 9 to noon on the Fan Upstate. Have a great night, everybody. I'll see you then.